Hey, it's Amethyst Virgo. I'm back. This video is about the asteroid Cupido through the signs and houses. And Cupido is an asteroid that is about your natural response to admiration, flirting, and instant attraction. So this is going to be a very interesting video. I will share how you can find your Cupido because it is not always commonly listed on every chart. Okay, so I will dive into that. All right, so let me give you some information about Cupido, and then the next slide is going to talk about how to find it. So if you want to find it first, pause this, click. If you have your birth time, birth place information, you'll be able to use one of the sites that I list in the next few minutes to look up your Cupido sign. So first of all, it sounds very similar, right? Because it's named after Cupid, you know, the little cherub who shoots arrows into people and makes them fall in love. So he is supposed to be in a similar myth as in the Greek, he was called Eros. And in Roman, it was Cupid, okay? Now, Cupido. So the thing with Cupido, or Cupid, let's draw back just to what Cupid is. Cupid is not, and again, I wanted to make this distinction because I did see a lot of research say, oh, he's similar to Eros. And I have a video about Eros. So if you want to know about your Eros, which is about passion, it's about intimacy, that is a different video. Cupid is not as erotic as Eros, okay? He is not as associated with our intimate needs. What do you remember about Cupido when you see him in like a, you know, an image or on a card or in a movie or something like that? Cupid is playful and he sometimes makes mistakes, such as using his bow on the wrong person. And we've all heard those myths, right? Interesting thing is his mother is Venus. And I want you to think about mother and child and how different adults and children view love, right? So if you're a parent, no, you have to be a parent, but if you are an adult, you have a different, more mature understanding, hopefully, of love. But when you're young and you're in your teen years and you're like very, very early adult years, it is more playful and you're just trying to, you know, it's fun and it's interesting. You may not be looking for long-term romance. That is because Cupid and Cupido, the placement in the chart, Cupido, it's going to be about who catches your attention. How do you react when you see someone you like or something you like? Right? We're going to focus on the someone in this case. There is another way to look at Cupido, but I want to make it very easy and digestible for everybody. But let's say you're like, wait a minute, I've been studying this astrology stuff. I know about a Venus and I know about this and I know about Jupiter and Juno and I watched your video. What is this now? Cupido is an asteroid. You do not have to use Cupido in a chart reading. Just like I say in my asteroid videos, you don't have to thoroughly perfectly understand asteroids. Now, if you do intend to be a practicing astrologer or read charts, you should, you know, probably catch up on what some of those asteroids mean. But for the most part, it's okay, right? Like if you walk away from this video like, cool video, liked it, but you know, I don't have to focus on my Cupido, that's fine. You don't have to. But I do think it's important for people who want to know even more about their charts. With that said, how do you differentiate between all these like love placements? Venus is partnership and romance, right? Jupiter could be your spouse. Or if you don't choose to get married, Jupiter can still represent the person who's your term partner. I know Saturn is usually like long term, but these days a lot of people are deciding to, you know, cohabitate or be in a committed relationship but live in different places or split their time. There's a lot of different modern twists to marriage or people's understanding or their, you know, their own personal beliefs. So Jupiter can represent, you know, someone who is spouse-like in your life, okay? Mars is your intimate partner. Go to Eros if you want to know more about, because Eros is like an octave of like the Mars energy. Juno is the ideal relationship, the lesson you learn, or the type of person that you will learn about true partnership from. And Saturn can be your commitment style. Again, Cupido placement in your chart can be about love affairs. It's quick energy, it's fun-loving, it's fleeting and enjoyable. If you are like, wait a minute, sounds great, I don't know where to find my Cupido, there's 2 sites I recommend. There are other sites you can use. If you have Solar Fire, which is a professional software that astrologers use, feel free to, you can locate your Cupido using that. So here, you can go to astrostyle.com, go to this link here, and right now it's highlighted series, but you would just go to this drop-down box and you would find Cupido. I tried it out for you already. So Cupido is on this if you want to pause and just look it up really quickly. Or you can go to astro.com if you are more familiar with that site. I know that site lets you store your birth chart, so you can easily just pull your birth chart up and add. You would go to extended chart options, and Cupido is 763. So if you're looking for the number, that's what it is. So if you're more familiar with astro.com, use that. If you want something a little quicker, let's start with Cupido signs. So at this point, you should have looked it up. You know what house it's in, you know what sign it's in. Let's start with Aries. If your Cupido sign is in Aries, you may feel, it feels like you've been struck by an arrow. Aries energy is instant. It's not plotting and thinking and, considering. It initiates and it feels. And we're thinking of Cupido. Now you get a person who may feel a need to make a move. And the burning fire within Aries is, I'm taking initiative. I see what I like, and I'm going to talk to this person, or they're going to know that I like them, right? And it's almost like that burning fire within Aries in general is like, if I don't do this now, I might lose my chance. So they could lose interest, but also Aries is not turned off by challenges. And since Aries is not turned off by challenges, this could be, you ignite. And even if you're a person who's rather shy, you can sometimes have people with stories like, yeah, I'm pretty shy, I'm low key, but I made the first move. Or I knew I liked that person, so I made sure that I sat next to them in class and struck a conversation with them, right? Sometimes we can do things that are uncharacteristic of our personality when we have different motivations. Now, Taurus, you might be attracted to those of means, right? People who have something, people who are trying to earn something, trying to get something. I don't think that's always about being materialistic. Sometimes I just think it's about what you value. If you value someone who earns resources and someone who invests and who makes sure that they work for what they have, and you might find that you're drawn to that type of partner. Now, again, Cupido is really quick, so this doesn't always mean this is who your lifetime partner is, but you pay attention to these things, or you pay attention to assets. You pay attention to the possessions a person may have. This could be even more possible if you, like, let's say it conjuncts Venus, right? If Cupido, you have Venus in your chart or something like that. You may notice how someone carries themselves. You notice the visual, and I put a little example for this one. Like, Taurus can be known for what someone wears. Taurus can be known for someone's style. All right. I noticed she had on a wristlet and a bronze jacket that matched her skin tone, right? Like it's this very like flowery type of language that with Taurus, it's about the visual and it's about the sensuality and it's about the noticing, like quality. Wow, they wear quality things. Wow, this person, I like the fact that they are really resourceful, right? So with Taurus, it could be those types of experiences. If it's a Gemini Cupido sign, you may like to engage with someone's ideas or thoughts. And it's flirtation in a very verbal way. It may not be physical flirtation or anything like that. You might enjoy banter, mild flirtation. You're texting back with somebody, and the conversation is very, very flirty. But you might not even mean what you say, because remember, Cupido, the whole symbolism of it is fast, it's quick, and you gotta kind of catch it, right? Like, it doesn't mean that this is going to be your long-term partner, but you may enjoy these types of experiences with people, and sometimes those experiences do lead to like a long-term relationship, right? If your Cupido is in Cancer, you can be emotionally smitten. So Cupido is going to have the same energy no matter what sign. Okay, so we have to remember that even though we look at Cancer, and Cancer is not a very forthcoming, very openly flirtatious sign, it is more demure, it is more subtle, it is more on the sweet side. So like with Cancer, you may enjoy sentimental things. This is the right? Like if you know someone's Cupido sign and they have the Cancer energy, they like sweet things. They appreciate things that are thoughtful, like notes, sweet exchanges, flowers, something that, oh, I know you really like this, this wine. Here's a bottle of wine. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if you get into someone's sweet spot through their Cupido sign, right, they can get an instant kind of draw for you. Now, of course, it doesn't mean this is your marriage partner, unless other conditions in both charts line up where you are likely to have a long-term commitment. But with the Cupido and Cancer, it's shy and coy energy. But it's very much actually connecting, but it's doing it in a way that is sentimental. I'm going to show you through how I care about the things you care about, that I like you. I'm going to try to connect in that way. Now, if your Cupido's in Leo, you may actively date or pursue who and what you are attracted to due to the courage in the dating game. You're courageous. You might look at it like there's not anyone I can't have, right? You have to be careful with how you come off if that's the case. Um, you have to come off. You have to, you may kind of have that. You have to be careful. It could be a game to you though. Like dating could be a game. How many numbers can I get? Like someone like that likely has some type of Cupido, maybe fifth house or Leo or something like that. But you're creative in how to keep it interesting, right? Like Aries may come on kind of strong. Some people like that because it's direct. It's not, I'm not playing the guessing game. Sometimes people like people letting them know, like, I like you. Even if you don't like them back, some people like that. With Leo, it's, I got to keep it interesting. And so this Leo and Cupido sign, they may do a lot of ostentatious things. They're gonna make it clear, like, I like you. I'm gonna put it all out there. This could be a person that even does some kind of social media stuff, especially if they have certain placements where they're very like communicative or they're into like internet type stuff. Someone that posts something on social media about who they have a crush on, or they just do these very elaborate things. But you could also be impressed by others, especially if they're outgoing or openly expressive. Like you might be drawn to that person that comes in with the bravado, and like they walk into the bar and they've got like their biker outfit on, and like, oh, who's that? You might be drawn to someone who expressed themselves with body art. Oh, I noticed her tattoos when I met her. She had a sleeve. Like you might be drawn to that. Again, being drawn to something is fun. It's lighthearted. It does not always mean this is going to be the long-term relationship energy. Virgo, if your Cupido sign is in Virgo, the more someone does for you, the more connected you feel. And it's not with Virgo, it's not about they have to buy you anything necessarily. It is, wow, that person looked out for me. And even if we're talking about non-romantic situations, a Virgo person is going to notice those things. They are impressed by small acts of kindness or service. They notice the small things. Wow, that person didn't have to do that, but they did that for me. Wow, this person really followed through with what they said they were going to do. You could be attracted or drawn to self-improvement types, even if it doesn't match the rest of your chart. Like you love the story of someone who's like, yeah, when I first started, I was working in the mailroom, and now I'm making decisions in the corporate office, right? Like you're drawn to people who have some type of story of work ethic, or someone who does something that you admire. Okay, an example could also be like, we're talking about self-improvement types. Depending on the person, it doesn't have to be something that's altruistic, which we know can sometimes be associated with the Virgo with the service energy. Example could be a person who's drawn to personal trainers, but they're drawn to it because they like that aspect of, oh, this person works for something every day. This person is committed. And so the Chiron and Virgo person may start to conceptualize that as, oh, this is this type of person. And if you make it even more impactful with being a Virgo, right? A Virgo with a Cupido and Virgo, and then you get someone who's drawn to that, a person who looks for partners who have people who it doesn't, like I said, it could be people who find some way in which they are doing something to improve every day. But again, just because you date the personal trainer, it doesn't mean it's long-term commitment. You would have to look at the rest of the chart to see what that could entail. Libra. Okay, so with Libra, you find the good in most people. Okay, you're seeking something about them you like, even if it's like, I don't like this part of them, but I might like that. It's almost like they try to compromise. Libra energy tries to compromise. And it can be hard if this impacts your long-term choices. If you're trying to find the good in everybody, and then some people, they have more bad than good, that can be problematic. But in general, you enjoy feeling connected to people rather than quickly in cordial and pleasant ways. An example is, I could put an example here, someone who enjoys going on dates just to connect. Yeah, she was a nice girl, but I'm not looking for anything serious, right? A Cupid, like if you're looking at someone's chart and you can't find like their dating patterns or dating habits, you don't get it, look at their Cupido. It could be something like this with Cupido and Libra, and it's like, oh, this is an individual who enjoys the being around someone who's drawn to that new interest, but they're not looking to make it something deeper. If your Cupido sign is in Scorpio, you may be a bit secretive about how you feel and even hide your true infatuation from yourself. You might be in denial. Every time that person walks in the room, you feel a certain way, but you don't know why. Or you're going to pretend like, no, I shouldn't like that person, so I'm not even going to pursue it, right? You may play detective to fully understand what you're getting yourself into before making or accepting a move. So you could be someone where you're just like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what this person is about. Let me watch. Let me see. But with Cupido, remember, Cupido is still interested, infatuated, admiring. So from afar, you are still doing all these things. If you have any placements in the 12th house, you have any daydream aspects, you may also be someone who daydreams about someone. So you keep it under the surface. You may play coy, but for a different reason than the fourth house. The fourth house is more that comfort level, not wanting to be too brash, but also being cardinal. I talked about how Cancer may be more forthcoming, Cupido with like sentimental things or doing certain things that are kind of nurturing in some way. But with Scorpio, it is, I need to make sure I have all the things I need to know. I'm going to dive deep and really make sure I understand what I'm feeling before I do I'd make a move, or before I let this person know that I like them. You could be like, oh, I didn't notice you had class with me. Oh, hi, yeah. Like you're gonna pretend and kind of play it off. Cupid on Sagittarius. Now, I said that when I wrote this, I said, like, yeah, it's like if you could date everyone just for experience, you could. If you could. We do know, like, we get some of that with Venus and Sagittarius, but with Cupido, remember, Cupido is, it's fun loving energy. It's fun, it's dating, it's flirting, it's admiration, it's all those things. You can find yourself fascinated by people who live a different life than you. That does not mean you're going to marry them necessarily, right? It also can mean like these are not romantic, full on romantic relationships. Maybe it's about friendships or people that you just, are so, interested in. But your short term relationships or crushes may be a different collection of people from different backgrounds, cultures, belief systems, right? Like you're drawn to, and I think sometimes Cupido can help you in other areas of your life. It doesn't, you might date someone from a different background, and then later on that helps you make friends with someone or connect better to someone at work because you're familiar with their culture or something like that because of your former fling or whatever. So that's just something to keep in mind about Cupido and Sagittarius. Cupido and Capricorn, you could prefer people who improve your image. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you are, you know, I don't think this means that this is someone who is, someone who is, doesn't have a level of like connection or kindness to them in terms of what they want. I think this is more about this awareness. You know who's successful, you know who would look good with you, you know who would look good on your arm. And it's just like you might just know who is good for your image. Like, no, this person does this and that. I'm sorry, I could never date someone like that, right? So you might be attracted to people that you feel hold themselves in high esteem. People who hold themselves in high regard. People have a lot of self-respect. You might look at that as something that you want to aspire to or something that you feel would be good with you. You might be drawn to those who have success or associated with success or something of that nature. Now, you do have to be careful sometimes, depending on other placements. You'd want to avoid being the type to pick someone up and think you could fix their off. Oh yeah, they're great for my image. No, don't wear that. Let's do this. Like, right? Like you want to be careful, especially in a short-term situation. If this is, one, even in a long-term relationship, like when we're imposing on other people what we think they should do, look like, and things like that. Now, if it's Aquarius, you may view dating as trial and error. You are just like, hey, this is life. Let's just do it. I'm intrigued by that person. I like the conversation I had. Let me just try it. Right? With Aquarius energy, it's either hit or miss, right? With Aquarius, you can either get someone who is very like experimental, or you get somebody that's kind of like very offstandish, someone who is constantly assessing if something is, beneficial to them in terms of their time. Aquarius is, not a sign that is necessarily going to entertain things that has not mentally intrigued them first. So it's not about the aesthetics, it's not like Leo energy. It's not about like, it might even be like Taurus with the style, about, what you value, what your resources you have. With Aquarius, it's more so, you're drawn into people who you feel kind of feed your inner need to experiment and see how things can be interesting on an intellectual level. So for Cupid on Aquarius, you might be drawn in because you see somebody online and you're like, oh, that's an interesting job they have. Oh, this person works for this type of, this company fighting for rights. Oh, this person has an interesting TikTok. This person has an interesting Instagram post, right? Like you might first be drawn in on someone's ideology and what someone's thoughts are. Because then Aquarius is always looking for someone like them. Sometimes he feels such an oddball. The energy is always looking for someone that they're like, oh, they see what I see. Now, remember, Aquarius is associated with the group. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the 11th house in a specific way, but with the Aquarius sign, it's like you tend to get excited at gatherings or in group dynamics. You might feel that you're more confident within these group dynamics with like finding potential dates or crushes or things like that, and maybe one to one it's a little bit more awkward. But you may often find partners within these types of gatherings, situations, things like that. Now, Pisces energy, Pisces, Cupido, and Pisces, you may pursue people who are idealistic or who are charming, right? Like you are drawn to that. You like that dreaminess in somebody. Even if it's like, hey, this is temporary. Oh, I like that. You tend to see the good in others, but not in a cerebral way, which is like Libra, which is like, I'm trying to find the balance. It's more of a good natured way. Like you're trying to find what in that person is ideal, what in that person makes you have compassion for them. You got to be careful because you may exhibit confusion at times, right? And you want to be careful not to chase what you think someone is rather than what they are, right? So before I jump into the houses, I do want to share that I really, really in my videos try to differentiate between the difference between a house and a sign. I just went over the signs, the Cupido signs. Signs are traits, right? Traits, sometimes even actions that you consciously or unconsciously do. Houses are the events, the themes. It could also be actions, but actions that sometimes happen around us. But houses are so I try to break this down more into what you may experience through the houses. But if you're looking more for the traits, you want to go to the signs. Okay. And if you're like, well, wait, I have Cupido and Pisces in my first house, what does that mean? You have to combine them. If you're like, wait, I have Gemini and Cupido in the 12th house, you got to combine them if you want anything more extensive. That would be like a reading. Okay. So first house, if your Cupido's in the first house, you view the object of your desire in comparison to yourself. You are looking at how much like me is this person. You may experience this. You may not even consciously do it, but you experience a search for shared characteristics or identities you may share, right? You're looking for how is this person similar to me? You may even attract or draw people that are similar to you in some way, right? Because especially when we're thinking of your what you're drawn to, what you're going to experience is going to be this desire need to ask yourself, like, if this person fits into my world, do they validate who I am? Right? Cupid on the second house, you may experience seeking what you value in others. You don't necessarily rush. And Cupid's not about rushing. Well, Cupid's kind of like rushing, but for you, it's like even when you're interested and intrigued, you're not going to really dive in until someone has proven they have worth. And I want to be careful here because I do think that worth and value and these terms that get thrown around a lot nowadays, it's like you can't really ascertain someone's value in totality. You can say what you value, but you can't really assess someone's value necessarily, right? In that way. But what you can do is know what you value. And you're going to have experiences most likely where there's themes around resources or money or dating people who kind of either, they help you, or dating someone who introduces you to something that helps you make money, or there's some type of theme in which you learn, maybe you meet someone, right? Like you work in a bank and you've had partners that also work in the same industry. It's going to be some theme there around just like resources and money and value. And that doesn't mean it's not about being materialistic. It's simply that's your placement. You're here to learn the importance of taking earthly things that you've earned and enjoying it, right? Taking things that you've earned and putting it away, saving it. Like the second house is about the way in which we now, it's it's separating from the first house of just self, and to go to the second house of what do I have, right? What are my possessions? What are the things that I've earned? But an example I put down here was coming from a family of money or a family without money and finding value in people who have resources. Again, we all need resources, right? Like as long as you're not, using someone, maliciously, there's, it's the world we live in. We need resources. You may experience romantic situations that are stimulated by your surroundings. Remember, the third house is neighborhood. It is our early life. It is the people we are introduced in early life, which typically are the people who were introduced to our like extended relatives, our siblings, cousins, etc. Extended relatives are not our siblings, but you know what I mean? Like, cousins can be that. You are maybe drawn to people who seem familiar or those from your former schools, someone you went to school with, someone very local in some way. Like you might have experiences where you're drawn, or you're a person when you were younger that dated a lot, right? In high school, you had a lot of girlfriends or boyfriends, right? If you go back to your own neighborhood, you see a couple of exes, right? Like that could be that Cupido young energy. Cupido in the fourth house. Here, the fourth house experience is now you need to be safe to feel comfortable enough to flirt. This is going to contrast vastly from what I say about the fifth house. But you may be drawn to people who remind you of someone. So remember, the fourth house is I need to feel safe. Oh, this person is from the same background as me. Oh, this person's from the same culture as me. Oh, this person's from the same ethnicity or same whatever as me. So the fourth house members are roots, and beyond family, it could also be our nationality and where we're, who our people are basically. And so with Cupido there, you could be someone where your early dating life, especially, is through people that are like you. You're somewhat cautious sometimes around, right? Like this dating type of scene, dating thing. That's why safety is so important. Or you could sometimes have people, especially let's say someone has Mars in the fourth house or very dominating energy in their fourth house, or a family member, you could sometimes have felt pressure to date someone from, your family wants you to date. Cupido in the fifth house now, this is the flirter's playground. This is an active pursuit, especially if paired with planets in the fifth house. If you have a person who has Jupiter and Venus and Cupido, we look up Cupido and it's in the fifth house. Oh, you're a flirt. Now, of course, the sign is going to tell us what type of flirt, right? Is this a Pisces Cupido? Is this a Pisces energy? It's very idealistic, and they're, very writing poetry and being very like coy, but also very, romantic and deeply, expressive and very sweet and very, all that type of energy. Is it that, or is it something a little bit different where we might have, a person with Scorpio who's very like intense, sexually or something like that. But not to say that's all Scorpios, but I'm talking about Cupido, I'm talking about, Jupiter, I'm talking about what the fifth house represents. It's pleasure. So if we keep that in mind. So you might, also feel very flirtatious in high energy places, parties, concerts, events, sports events. May stimulate the need in you to find someone to excite and entertain, right? Cupido in the sixth house. Now, if Cupido's in the sixth house of sixth house of health, work, service, coworkers. So Cupido in sixth house, if you've had a lot of coworker romances, could be Cupido influence. But also, art improvement, self-improvement, routine, daily things. So attraction here can start off slow. This is not the fifth house, right? So this is a house of routines, and confidence may not be present until you feel you've experienced the routine with someone. So this could be something where it's like, oh, I've seen this person enough. I know their routines. Now I'm going to talk to them. I feel comfortable talking to them. I know what their routine is. So now I know the best time to talk to them isn't in the morning, because in the morning they're really busy, but maybe in the afternoon. An example is seeing someone every day at the same coffee shop, right? It's like repetition and studying something, and energy is probably going to be the most common experience sometimes. Relationships are more positive for you when you find that a person shares your daily activities. So if you find that a person, oh, they also like golfing, oh, they also like, taking walks with the dog to the park, like that's gonna ignite what you feel even more. Now, if Cupido is in the seventh house, you experience partnerships as unions, and you can be consumed with the prospect of a union, right? You like the characteristics of a relationship. You feel drawn to people who seem inviting. So with Cupido here, it's like you may feel more attached to people that seem welcoming, right? It's not about attaching yourself to the first person you see, but it's like you're seeking people who seem open for partnership, and that can be great. But it also can sometimes be a problem if people are both seeking partnership, but people aren't thinking logically and wisely before they enter into something serious, right? You may tend to try and make it work. Cupido in the seventh house is this kind of, and you have a lot of instance, a lot of connections, a lot of, people. Now, again, it's not about flirtation. It was Cupido's flirtation, but if Cupido's in the seventh house, it's also people trying to make them relationships. So sometimes a person not getting the hint, or a person trying to make everybody they go on a date with a relationship, like really being careful there, especially if there's any aspects that show a person can be delusional or struggle with letting go of something that's not going to work. Now, if Cupido's in the eighth house, Secret crushes or experiences that require secrecy. We're dealing with eighth house energy. We're dealing with under the surface energy. You may try and hide your true feelings when someone catches your eye. There might be reasons for that sometimes. If people feel that they're constantly in like a love affair, secret love affair, clandestine. Eighth house could be that, and 12th. 12th can be that lack of boundaries. Eighth house can be that actual conscious secrecy, and 12th house is it is unintentional secrecy. Okay. And so relationships can also grow or transform over time. This could be someone like, yeah, I met them 5 years ago, but it wasn't until this happened that we made a love connection or something like that. Others may invest in you temporarily. The eighth house can be a lot of things, serious things. I have a video about the eighth house. If you're new here and you want to know the real deal, go to the playlist of my houses, of the houses, and I talk about the eighth house. But investment can be a part of that. People gaining from their relationships, and so others may invest in you temporarily or give gifts, especially if it's conjunct Venus or Jupiter. Okay, so if you're like, oh, that person's always dating, and they always get gifts from the person, right? That could be the eighth house influence. Cupid on the ninth house. Well, again, I'm talking about houses experiences. The more of an adventure a person is for you, the better. And sometimes this could be a person who's on a roller coaster ride to whatever. It's exhilarating. You're willing to go through the journey. You don't see it as a barrier. Yeah, that person's going through a messy divorce and they have 3 kids, but I like them. They're cool. They're interesting. They're eccentric. I like them. You could also, you find yourself in a lot of, because then the thing, Cupido is about fun, lighthearted, playful dating, but ninth house is a journey. Therefore, and of course, it's also about our belief systems. When you're doing astrology, a house can have 100 things under it. When we're doing astrology, we have to look at what planet, asteroid, or placement we're talking about, and then apply the meaning of that placement to talk. So with Cupido being here, it is about like you become drawn in and addicted almost to the experience of people who have a lot of growth to do, or people who are expanding. You might see a lot of optimism in people. You may have an optimistic outlook, even when someone is not available, right? Like, yeah, that person's going through a messy divorce, but you know what? I want to be there for them. Like, like there could be those experiences of like, viewing relationships or viewing your crushes as things to like deal with, right? To go on a journey. Like, I believe this can happen, or those types of things. And you also may find an interest in people who are worldly. You could find that you're attracted and drawn to people who have a lot of experiences. Oh, this person used to live overseas. This person did this. Like, people who have very interesting, engaging stories, backgrounds. If Cupido's in the 10th house, we're now dealing with, you may find you attract more ambitious partners than you are, or you find partners when you are succeeding or have prominence. You could find that you may place certain expectations on romance. You may think, oh no, I need a person who makes 6 figures times 5. I need a person who makes this amount of money, or you're drawn to that. That doesn't always mean that's what you're going to get, but you have those high ideals. You're drawn to the status and public acknowledgement of being associated with someone. So this could also be people who are really interested in like celebrities or famous people, like people who are like really consumed with that. That can be Cupido. Because Cupido doesn't always have to mean these are people you're dating. It could also mean the people that you're crushing on. And so, here, example I put was like someone who's dating a high-powered attorney, popular in the city, and they have to announce it to their friends. They have to let everybody know, I'm dating so-and-so. Have you heard about? Yeah, they represented this person and that person. So that's just an example of that. Cupid on the 11th house. People may try to set you up on dates. If you have 11th house, oh, I have a friend. Oh, can you come to us this event? I know somebody that's going to be there. You can find that the experience that you have through the 11th house is attracted to people who have a shared outlook or societal views. You also may date people who run in the same social circles, and maybe it's not a coincidence, and maybe it's maybe you do it on purpose, or maybe like it just so happens. Like, wow, my last 5 people that I dated, I met through this organization, or I met them through friends. So there could be themes there. Of course, I'm sure if that happens enough times, you'll find a long-term partner. But you also could have crushes on friends, and that could fizzle out. Remember, the 11th house is the house of groups, organizations, networks, but also, it could be friendships. And, but also remember, Saturn and Uranus rule the 11th house. And so depending how you look at it, if you feel like there's more of a Uranus influence, it could be things that are kind of abrupt. So you want to be careful, anyone with 11th house energy, that friendships don't blur into romance, depending on your placements, and that kind of ruins some of those friendships. Cupid on the 12th house now. You may meet others who end up impacting your life. We think of the 12th house, we could talk about the concerns and we could talk about some of the challenges, but really the 12th house is our sense of dreams, our ability to tap into things that aren't always clear, but also the things that can't be quantified. We can't quantify impacting somebody, right? Unless, yes, and, sometimes we can, but if we really want to think about life and you think about the people who've impacted you, they cause some type of shift in your experience, or they made life really meaningful, hopefully, right? So you may experience a lot of distance though as well. If you think about the 12th house, it's Neptunian. It is out of sight, it's out of touch, out of sight. And it's an undercurrent. It's the unconscious, and it takes a lot of work to bring that stuff out. And so for people who haven't quite mastered their 12th house, it can be kind of difficult sometimes, but you can master your 12th house and use it to your benefit. But I would say here is like there can be some distance in relationships, or a lot of loss in some, these circumstances, especially if there's situations with soulmates, etc. You can experience a sense of having to reckon with idealism. And for some people it requires coming into reality, right? I have a crush on these people, but do they like me back? Right? Like there has to be those types of reflective those reflective experiences at some point. But you also can experience a lot of longing. If you Cupid on the 12th house, you can long a lot for people that you can't have, right? Or for a type of relationship or type of like attention that you just may not always receive. So that was it for this video. I'm hoping someone found it of value. Cupido is not something we talk about a lot, but I've gone through so many asteroids. And I also think at this point, it's important for us to start to layer on some additional asteroids or placements that can help you understand why something may be happening in your life. There could be other things in your chart that don't explain it. But if you look up Cupido or you look up another placement, you're like, oh, okay, I see where this is coming from. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe if you're not already subscribed.